We're going to do, first of all, a review of some of the information from last week and our second presentation on the aspect of health in general and the Ministry of Healing. So I think I'm able to share my screen now. Not yet. So if Kevin, you can help me, please, to give me permission. I'm going to show the PowerPoint for the review. Then we'll hear from Elaine, who'll be talking to us a little bit more about exercise.
Hi again.
Is it working now? Okay,
Hello.
yes,
It should be.
There we are. Thank you very much. Right. So we're talking about complete health education for a better life. Last week, we were looking at the basics of what is health and how, according to the World Health Organization, it's a very helpful definition that says that health is not just the absence of disease, but it is a state of complete well-being. There's 5 aspects of health: physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual. They are all connected. We cannot separate them, and one affects the others and vice versa. So everything is interconnected. We need to be focusing on all aspects of health if we want to be truly healthy. We also look at the concept of the health continuum, which says that at any given point, any person can be at a specific point across a health continuum. To the left, we have the worst that it could be, which is disease. It could be a terminal disease or degenerative disease. And then to the right is our optimal health, and not just physically, but also emotionally, physically, etc. And the good news is that wherever we are on the scale, there is always something that we can do to go a little bit more towards the right, towards the green. And so wherever you are this evening, whether you are in the red or in the blue or in the in-between, in the yellow, God has something for you. And maybe you cannot achieve the full potential or optimal health, but you can have quality of life. We also looked at understanding health and some concepts that were helpful. For example, health is a treasure. It's very important, isn't it? We value it a lot. Sometimes we don't value it until we lose it. And when we lose it, we realize how important it is. We'll do almost anything to regain our health. Health is a trust, it's a gift from God. And our bodies, our minds, we are stewards of them. And we will give an account for how we treat our bodies and our minds. Health is also primarily a result of choices. Healthy choices lead to optimal health. And every choice involves a trade-off. We need to give up something in order to gain something else. For example, today I was doing a trade-off. My bag was telling me, you need to be careful. But my mind was telling me, oh, I need to get this work in the garden done. So I made a trade-off and I didn't listen so much to my bag. And I might regret it tomorrow. We'll see. I hope I will be able to make it to church. And that was a trade-off. I made that trade-off. And sometimes what happens is, if we make trade-offs against our health, if we give up healthy options in order to get something else, it could be a goal or appetite, or it could be the customs of society or of our family, then over time it can take a toll on us. Because health is a scale. and every act casts its weight on the balance, either leading towards health or towards disease. And finally, we talked about health is limited or determined by our weakest link. If there's something that is not working well, if we have maybe a deficiency, if there's an area where we are struggling, our health can be limited by that until we can lift up that or improve or resolve that area. Our health will be limited. So no matter how well we're doing in our areas, we need to focus on those areas where we are weak or failing, or some health habits that we need to develop. And finally, health is dynamic. It is complex. It is always on the move. Our bodies are always regenerating themselves. Cells are dying, cells are being replaced, new cells are being created. And it's not something that you achieve once and then you forget about it. We need to be working on our health on an ongoing basis for the rest of our lives, and keep good care of ourselves. Okay, and we ended with healthy weight health. Dr. Uche was giving us very helpful information about how we can lose weight. And I will summarize that information on 5 ways to lose weight for good. So let's look at these 5 W's. Number 1 is understand why. Why do we put on weight? And the answer is simple and also is complex at the same time. It's simple because it's just to do with mathematics. There's more calories being consumed than the calories that are being, more calories that are being taken into the body than those that are being burnt out through our activity. So a positive balance of calories, we make savings, and they get deposited around the belly and under the skin and different parts of the body. In order to lose weight, we need to go into a negative caloric balance, about 500 to 600 calories per day, so that we will be on the losing side. But also it's a complex issue because it's just not about mathematics. We're dealing with feelings, with emotions, with leptin resistance, with metabolism challenges in the body that can make it very difficult for some of us to lose that weight or to maintain a healthy weight. Then the second W is workout. We have to increase our physical activity, exercise, our consumption of calories, like in terms of burning calories, so that we can get into that negative caloric balance to start losing the weight. Number 3 is water. So now we are focusing on the things that we are taking into our bodies. And how many calories does water have? 0 calories. So if we dispense from juices and other things, other drinks with sugars or with sweeteners, then we are making our body a favor. And also we need that water in order to metabolize the fat and do the different activities in the body. Number 4 is watch the time. Having a window of time in which we're going to eat, and preferably eating our calories early in the day. Our last meal 4 to 5 hours before bedtime, and having regular and set times for our meals, whether 2 or 3 meals per day, and not snacking in between. So we need to watch the time and make sure we get our rest as well. And the last W, number 5, is whole plant foods. These are foods that are not processed. They come from the ground, they come from nature, and they are full with fiber. So they are low in calories, they're high in fiber. So the caloric density is low. So we've got a big volume of food with little calories. It makes us full because it's got all the vitamins, nutrients that we need. So long as we have a varied diet of plant foods, then that will help us to lose the weight. So remember, 5 ways to lose weight for good. Right. So now, the topic for today is going to be the foundations for good health. And we're going to look at the basics. Remembering that there's these 5 elements of our being, we're going to look at top 5 needs that we have. Top 5 needs that we have in each of these areas, things that we need to have in order to achieve that optimal health. So in the physical area, what do we need? So we can think about our cells. Our body is made out of cells. We have billions of cells. And there is 5 essential needs for each cell of the body. Number 1, we need oxygen. And we get that from our breathing. Without oxygen, the cells will die within minutes. And lack of oxygen is what is the cause of death and disability, the main cause of death, disability in most countries, in most of the Western world. A heart disease, for example, or a heart attack, there's a blockage in the arteries of the heart. There's no blood flow that carries the oxygen. The cardiac muscle dies. Or stroke. There's no blood flow to certain parts of the brain. There's no oxygen being supplied. That part of the brain can die. Or even COVID. People who died from COVID, they developed respiratory problems. They could not take enough oxygen into the system, and they were suffering, and many of them died because of that lack of oxygen. Number 2, every cell needs water. We can survive without water just for a matter of a few days. The body is mainly made of water, and every chemical reaction in the body takes place in the context of water. Number 3, we need nutrition. Without food, we will die within weeks or months, maybe 40 days, 2 months, we can survive without food. But we need to give to the body all the nutrients that it needs. Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, all those things are needed for the cells to carry out the function. And we need to supply that through our diet. Number 4, okay, my PowerPoint is frozen, just a minute. Okay, number 4 is waste elimination. Every cell produces waste, and that waste needs to be processed. It needs to be taken out of the cell, out of the body, through the skin, through perspiration, through urination, and detoxification from the liver, etc. And number 5, we need freedom from toxins. So be careful what we put in our skin, what we put in our mouths. There's chemical products, there's things that can be toxic to the body, and those things can be damaging to the cell. So we need to, as much as possible, live a toxic-free lifestyle. Okay, now let's look at the area of mental health. What do we need for mental health? And by mental, I'm referring to the cognitive abilities here. So we need critical thinking skills. This is where we are able to analyze information and we can discern between what is true and what is not true. We need truth. We need a good source of truth from the Bible, from inspiration, from good science, which is that which agrees with the Bible and inspiration. And then especially in this society with the internet, we are bombarded by information. We need to be able to discern and have good judgment or discernment. Second, we need independent thinking. Also, we are bombarded by opinions. Everyone has got an opinion. Everyone is sharing their opinion online. And then we need to be not just reflectors of other man's thinking, parroting what other people think, but we need to be able to make our own mind, analyze the data, and then reach a conclusion. Number three, we need hindsight. This is the ability to look at the past and to learn lessons from the past that we can apply in the future. We need insights, and this is having creativity and an ability to process information and to apply to our current setting. And finally, we need foresight, the ability to predict the future or to anticipate what could be the outcome of events if I take this action or take that action, so that we can take appropriate action. And all those things together is what we call wisdom. The Bible says, above all things, get wisdom. And ultimately, God is the source of wisdom. With regards to emotional health, I'd narrow down to 4, I think. Number 1 is awareness. Being aware of my emotions, my needs, my emotional needs, and what is going on inside of me. What are the thoughts that are producing those emotions? What am I believing about God, about myself, about the people, about the situation that is at the root of those thoughts and those emotions that I am feeling, especially if they are negative emotions? We can set us in the wrong direction. So we need to have that self-awareness. Number 2 is regulation. This is the ability to manage our emotions, not to be carried away by our emotions, not to be overcome and overpowered by our emotions or the emotions of others, but to be able to say, hey, I'm feeling this way. How can I deal with it in a healthy way? How can I process this emotion? How can I come into a better place if it's a negative emotion? Number 3 is motivation. This is the ability to stay on course, to achieve our goals, and to discipline ourselves and to persevere until we achieve those goals. And number 4 is resilience. So we live in a world where it is tough. It can be challenging, and we're going to have setbacks. Friends might hurt us. Our loved ones might hurt us. We can lose a job. We can lose our health. Someone can take advantage of us. Sometimes we will be misunderstood. So there are losses in this world. This world is tough. And we all suffer. So resilience is the ability to bounce back from those disappointments and to get up again if we fall and to keep walking. Like Hebrews 12 says, to run with endurance the race that is set before us. That is resilience, to keep going and learning from those negative experiences, becoming better rather than a bitter person. And then on the social health, we need interactions. God said when he created Adam, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make someone for him to help him, to be with him, to interact with him. So social isolation is one of the government a few years ago, they realized, especially in old age, there's a pandemic of social isolation, and it's a health concern in our society. And also children that are not having interaction with caregivers. We have studies from orphanages in the past. They don't thrive. They don't do very well in life. And then number two, we need attachment. This is where there's some people that we have interaction, but we go deeper with them. So we're talking about connection, intimacy, being known and knowing others, and feeling accepted, feeling safe, feeling connected, attached to another person. And again, it begins in childhood. When children have a positive attachment to caregivers, they thrive, they do well in life. Then later on, we have developed attachment with friends, and then maybe that one particular friend that become our spouse, and we have a long life attachment. And then from that attachment, we can have children, and we can share that attachment with others. So the cycle goes on and on. We can feel that we belong to our church family or to our family at large. Those things are what we call attachments. Number three, we need empathy. So it's not just focusing on myself, but having the ability to put myself into the person's shoes, to walk in the shoes, to understand what they might be feeling, and to come alongside them and to support them. That's how we develop attachment with people, okay? Number four is conflict management. So long as there is people, we're gonna have conflict at home, at work, in the church, with neighbors, in the community. Even if there's nobody else and it's just yourself, sometimes you can just have conflict within yourself. So we're gonna have face conflict. That's part of relationships. So we cannot avoid it. We cannot pretend it's not there. We cannot run away from it. We need to develop good skills at dealing with conflict and facing it and growing from it and being able to resolve those conflicts. That's an essential skill for social health. And finally, number five is repair. Sometimes things go wrong. We say the wrong thing. We got the wrong attitude. We hurt others. We are hurt by others. There's a rupture in that connection, that attachment. We don't deal well with the conflict. So we need to know how we can repair that relationship that has been affected through forgiveness, through reconciliation, through negotiation, through different ways. That is an essential skill that we need for social health. And finally, our last area, the spiritual area, number five. These are the ones that I thought that were very essential. Number one, we need love or intimacy with God. Love is the most important thing. To understand deep within my heart that I am loved by God, that I am valued by Him, that He cares for me, that He's thinking about me, that I matter to Him, that gives us wings. We are able to face, if I can have God's love and His presence with me, I can just take on the whole world. I can climb mountains. I can do anything if we have that assurance of God's love. Number two, we need a clear conscience, knowing that our sins are forgiven. that we are accepted before God in spite of what we have done. To know that there is nothing between my soul and my Savior. There is no sin, there is no lack of unwillingness to surrender to Him. The way is clear. We have that clear conscience. We can sleep at ease. We can have peace because our conscience is clear. That is so valuable. Number 3, we need faith, or we can call it trust. Trust in God, that God cares for us, that is able to help us, that is got our best interests at heart, that where I cannot find one solution, there's 1,000 solutions that He can have for me, and that He has got the world in His hand, He's got the future in His hand. He can help me. He wants to help me. He will help me. Then I can resolve the fears and the anxieties that I can have because I have trust in God. Number 4 is hope. Hope for the future. Hope that things will get better, that there's a better future, there is a better world to come. So no matter how tough my situation is, no matter how sick I feel, no matter how broken I feel, that things will get better. And the beautiful thing with this hope that comes from God is that as we're thinking about health, God gives a guarantee of 100% guarantee of healing. So if you have a disease, if you are struggling, if you are hurting, if you are suffering, God promised you, if you put your faith in Him and repentance, 100% He will heal you. The healing might come instantly through a supernatural means. The healing might come gradually through natural means. And sometimes the healing will come not in this world, but in the world to come, at the second resurrection, when Jesus will come again and we will get a new body. And we will be in a world with no more pain, no more sorrow, no more cancer, no more kidney disease, no more COVID, no more crying, no more disease. So if we trust in Him, 100% guarantee. What do you think about that? Isn't that wonderful? And number 5 is a sense of identity and mission. To know that who I am in God. I'm not defined by my past. I'm not defined by my sin. I'm not defined by what other people call me. No, I am defined by I belong to God. I am His. I am a child of God. And I have value in Him. And a sense of mission is knowing that my life has got meaning. There is a purpose for my existence. I'm not here by accident. And no matter how things might be difficult, I have a goal, I have a mission. And God has given me that mission. I can find it and my life will be fulfilled if I can discover that mission and pursue that mission that God has given me. So those are the top 5 needs in each category. Let's review them. Physically, we need oxygen, water, nutrition, waste elimination, and freedom from toxins. For mental health, we need critical thinking, independent thinking, hindsight, insight, and foresight. For emotional needs, emotional health, we need awareness, regulation, motivation, and resilience. For social health, we need interaction, attachment, empathy, ability to deal with conflict, and to repair relationships. And finally, our spiritual health, we need love, trust, a clear conscience, and sense of identity and mission. So the question is, as each one of us look at these 5 different areas And the 5 top needs for each of the areas is, in which area do I need to develop? Which area am I weak in? And where is God calling me to pay attention to it? So I'm gonna leave them there for a minute so you can have a look at them, and then prayerfully consider, examine your life and see in which area you could make some improvements to increase your level of physical, mental, social, emotional, or spiritual health. Okay. Now we're going to go to our next section, where Elaine is going to be talking to us a little bit more about the importance of physical activity and encouraging us. After that, we'll hear from Kevin, who will give us a report of our steps for this week. And then finally, we'll hear from Dr. Uchi with the main presentation about how exercise goes up to our head. Okay, over to you, Elaine.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, so we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that was really nice to hear all the different parts of our components and how God has made us to want all these different parts of us to gel together so that we can work as a healthy unit. But I just want to ask the question, does anyone know, because Ellen White says, she makes a statement where prayer is like the air to the soul, right? You can't live without prayer. And if that's the case, what is exercise like to us spiritually? If prayer is like the air to the soul, and we can't live without that, then what is exercise to us? Does anyone know?
Prayer is the breath of the soul.
Yes. Prayer is the air, is the breath of the soul. Yes. So what is exercise now? What is exercise to our soul? Exercise to us spiritually is like witnessing. The more we eat from the food of God's word, the more we should exercise, right? We should go out and witness, because otherwise you become sluggish as a Christian, you become constipated as a Christian, you're eating too much food and you're not giving it out. So yeah, just to make a correlation there as to what exercise actually means to us spiritually as well. And they say if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it's always good to have a plan, to exercise. Yeah. So I'm just going to talk about just making a plan to exercise. I know probably this week you've been busy doing your walk-in and your exercise, and I don't know what kind of exercise you got up to this week, but consistency is key. If you want to have results, you've got to be consistent with your workout, and so ask yourself which days you can work out. If you want to work out maybe 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, just say for an hour a day. Even if you can just handle half an hour a day, it's still something. But if you're consistent with that half an hour, it's going to make big results. Yeah. So be specific and realistic with what you can do. If you can only do 30 minutes a day, that's fine, but just be consistent with it. And think about the best time it is for you to exercise. I mean, people say, what's the best time to exercise? There's no best time. It's like what suits your schedule, you know, because sometimes people work different hours or whatever. So it's when you can fit it in more consistently and make it work together like that smoothly in your life, because it's about it becoming a part of your lifestyle. And so also think about what workouts you want to do. Focus on all your major muscles. So yeah, you can think of strength workouts or cardio workouts. Those are the two basic, you know. You can go into all different ones. I mean, there's five major ones, which is like you can do strength, cardio, flexibility workouts, balance workouts, and coordination. So, but just for the basic ones, can anyone give me an example of like a strength workout? Anybody?
Weightlifting.
Yes, weightlifting. Yeah, and
Gardening.
Laying flags in the garden.
laying what? Sorry.
Laying flagstones in the garden.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah. Actually, I remember where Ellen White says at a certain age, boys are supposed to be cutting wood, you know, and that's a lot of strength. You know, if you think of chopping, you know, a piece of wood, it's a lot of strength that goes into that axe. And I think that's to build the muscles. And also at that time, at that age, you know, that's what they should be doing. Yeah, I wish we could we could adopt all those things in the lifestyle that we have these days. But anyway, and cardio. Any examples of cardio workout? Anyone?
Running.
Running, yes, that's a very good one. Yeah, so strength workouts mainly like they increase your muscles and they give you a higher metabolic rate. And cardio is more increasing your breathing and your heart rate, and it builds your stamina and it burns calories and excess fat from your body. Yeah. So if you want to gain weight, if you want to gain weight, you do more strength training and less cardio. But if you want to lose weight and build toned muscles, you can combine the two, right? So when you've worked out, okay, I want to do 5 days a week. Now you can think, okay, what I want to do is lose weight and build toned muscles. So you can like dedicate 2 days to strength training, like say 3 days or 2 days to cardio, and 1 day to low intensity workouts. So just basically then you start thinking, okay, which days am I going to do it? Monday, I'll do weights. Tuesday, I'll do high intensity training. Have you heard of high intensity training? Like it's high intensity interval training, I think it is, where you know you do very fast for a length of time and then you stop. You take a break in between and then you'd go fast again, and it kind of tricks your body into that you actually, your body starts thinking that it's doing it the whole time, and so that you're actually burning a lot more that way. And it's a very powerful way of exercising. So yes, and so so you can say Monday weights, Tuesday high intensity training, Wednesday I'll take a break. Thursday, weights again. Friday, low impact. And Sunday, I'll do a run. Yeah. So that's, you've got to think of the volume of your workouts as well, in terms of like with your weight training, how many reps you're going to do, and what weights you're going to use, and you just customize it to your body, to how your strength is, because there's no right and wrong place to start. I mean, if you're just starting your workouts, and the key as well to keep it going is also keep improving. So you've got to have progress with your workouts. Once you find it too easy, it's time to, lift more weights or do more reps, and make it harder, so that you are actually improving, because your body kind of gets to a plateau where it gets too used to the same thing, and you're not actually benefiting from it anymore. So it's, your body is built to actually take on more and more and more. God has made us so wonderfully. I'm telling you, it's just amazing. So make it harder for yourself, and your body will adapt to that as well. So train to do like 4 to 6 weeks before you start adding more weights, so that you give your body enough time to adapt to that one, and then you increase after that. And just keep things fun. I think that's another way of staying with a program for long, is if you enjoy it, then you're going to do it more. And keep a review of it, because it's always nice to look back and think, okay, how am I doing? These days we have the Fitbits, we have the mobile apps, we can see how many steps we're doing, or how what rate our hearts actually go up to, so that you can say, okay, I know at that, I was doing at that level, and next time I'm going to do more. So, it makes it easier for you to look back and see how you're progressing. And that's all I wanted to say today. And I hope you've enjoyed your workouts this week. I don't know where to put my workouts. I haven't downloaded the Samsung, but I'm sure on because I got the Fitbit, so I can just send it over to Kevin, and he can include it in the stats, in the data. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Len. Thank you very much. There were some messages on the chat. Jumping jacks as one of the exercises that we could do for cardio. And Jane was sending a link to some good workouts with Christian music and ethos. Thank you, Jane. Okay, Kevin, can you tell us how have we been doing this week with our challenge? And if you can run us again through how we can report our activity logs.
Right, good evening, everyone. Right, so give a quick rundown of our challenge this week. So we have started. Quite a number of people have been able to enroll. We set the initial challenge for last week at 100,000 steps. And I'm glad to say we did get a few people who clocked 100,000 steps. So that is good. The whole idea is we would like to measure where we are at the end of this series. So we would like to see every week an increase in the average per person steps that we are doing. Unfortunately, we can't measure other activities, because I know, you can go running or you can go cycling. So we've just decided to go with something simpler for the meantime, which is just steps. So that's just walking, because it's just a lot simpler to measure. Now, there's an app that you can use, which is the Samsung Health app, but you can use any other app. The reason we chose the Samsung was it's just easier on Android devices, because we created a challenge and people can just subscribe onto that challenge, and it gives a live presentation of how we are doing as we progress throughout the week. So it gives people a challenge. You know, you can log on to the app and see, oh, David is done 10,000 steps more than me. Then tomorrow I can go and do 15,000 to catch up with David, or Pastor is also caught up with me. You know, so it's kind of live and interactive. Now, unfortunately, not all devices can do that, but for those who are on the Samsung or Android apps, I'd encourage you to subscribe to that challenge. So this week, I've been able to track 7 participants, one from Android, or one from Apple device, and the rest were on Samsung Health. So I'd encourage everyone, if you've been doing it on Fitbit, if on Friday afternoon, before the session, if you send through your weekly totals, and then I'll put them on a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet will help us to generate the average steps per participant for that week. So this week, we are at 58,510. So this forms our baseline. So next week, we hope to improve on that, to demonstrate that we are becoming a lot more active. Star of the week, well, this is based on the information that I got, is David. So David was our star of the week. And wow, David was able to get 100,000 steps by Thursday. Yes, so before the end of the week, David had already amassed 100,000 steps. So yes, David is the star of the week. So I'd encourage everyone to join on, and let's see who will be our star of the week next week. Right, so yeah, so that's the kind of summary you get on this side of the screen, where, you know, it's kind of live and it gives each participant, you know, as you go throughout the week, and it's kind of interactive. So I just ask people to try and join in, especially those on Android devices, and those who are on Samsung or on Apple. Just send through your totals at the end of the weekend. We will be able to work it out. So our next challenge for this week, so I've created one called Warrington and Knowsley Health 2. So if you go back on the app, you can join that challenge. And we've set this challenge to go on until the 29th. So this week's challenge doesn't have a maximum. So what we hope to do is just to be able to beat the average for this week, which was at 58,000 steps. Anyone who needs assistance, just give me a shout and I'll be able to talk you through on how to go about it. Yeah, but you don't have to use Samsung Health. If you want to use another app, that's still, you are still free to do that. Okay, right, so yep, let's try and keep busy. And this is going to be one of our KPIs to see that this program has been a success by increasing people's activity. Okay, thank you. Unless there's any questions from anyone.
Very interesting.
Is it possible to put the invitation, send the invitation to the group? I'm sorry if I've missed that.
Yes, so I'll put this week's invitation in the Warrington, and I'll ask Pastor to put it in the Knowsley Church WhatsApp, and people can access it from there.
Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Thank you, Kevin, and well done, David. Let's see if we can catch up with David next week. Okay, Richie, you're ready with your presentation?
Yeah. Well, I think it looks like I don't even have much to say. I think everyone's pretty much said all that I was going to say. I don't know whether you can see my screen. I'll just see what I can share it. Let's Okay, so yeah, so what we're going to be discussing today is the benefits or the effects of exercise on the brain, basically on mental health disorders. We're going to discuss or go through the life of a young lady called Hulda Crooks. We'll talk a bit about discuss briefly what those mental illnesses are. We will go through Hulda's story. We will talk about the benefits of exercise and exercise intensity on those different groups, how to measure exercise intensity. We'll also have a questionnaire because it's going to be interactive. So we have a quiz about depression and anxiety. So what I'll ask you to click on the quiz. It was sent to the WhatsApp group, Warrington. So if you can get that ready so that you can just do a quick assessment of whether you're depressed or anxious. Also, we also do a quick assessment of what your maximum heart rate is, because that's going to help us in calculating what kind of intensity of exercise. So this is Hulda Crooks. Like I said, she's a young lady who lived from 1896 to 1997.
Sorry, Uche, I cannot see your screen. Can other people see the screen?
Can anyone see my screen, yeah?
No, no.
Well, I said share screen. Let me go back. Do I need to be a host to share it?
No, you should be able to just share it, Uche.
Yeah, it said share, so I clicked on it.
Share and start.
Is it sharing now?
No.
No.
All right, so what do I do then? Sorry. It said screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again later. Error code. Okay, maybe what I will do then, if you know the technology stuff, can I send, Kevin, can I send the PowerPoint to you then?
Yeah, you can send it through.
Okay, so I just send it now very quickly. So apologies to everyone for the technical hitches.
Are you sending it on WhatsApp? Or
I'm going to send it on by Gmail.
Okay.
So it's, let me close it first. I just closed the, so it's Kevin Simango to, so while we're doing that, I don't know whether, has anyone got the link on the WhatsApp group about the quiz, depression and anxiety quiz? Have we all got that? Have we got access to it? If you've got it, anyone want to give a heads up whether they've got it or not?
Yep, I've been able to access it.
Okay, you've been able to access it. So while we're waiting for Kevin to share the presentation, do we just mind quickly filling out the questionnaire, depression and anxiety questionnaire? It probably should take about 2 minutes. Have we all got it? Anyone else apart from Kevin?
Yeah, I've got it. Is
okay.
it mood self-assessment?
Yeah.
18 questions.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got it.
I've got it.
Okay.
Me too.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just fill it out. You don't, obviously, you can share in the chat if you want, if you feel like. the result. It can also be private as well. Obviously, if you're feeling quite depressed and anxious, maybe can you just give me a heads up after the presentation and we can discuss what to do. So if we just want to try and fill it out quickly, we can ask questions about it during the presentation.
Volume's off. Let me think. Wait a minute. Let me see how to do this. Self-assessed depression. Okay. So, if I take a copy of it, what's the best way to send it to you?
Can
you do WhatsApp?
Well, there's a summary at the end. It gives you a summary at the end when you finish.
Oh.
So you can send that summary by email, or you can keep it, or send it to me by WhatsApp. But it's actually for your own personal, obviously, unless any of us have got concerns. It's just to give us an idea about where we are in terms of our what do you call it? Our mood, because depression and anxiety, they're quite common. And at times we may be going through a lot of stress, that anxiety that we're not really aware of. So Kevin, I've sent it to you. So when you're ready, we'll just go. Yeah. Okay. So while we're waiting for Kevin to, maybe let's have a bit of an interactive session. Yeah. Anyone have an idea how common mental illness is in the UK? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Okay, so mental illness is fairly common. 1 in 4 people in the UK will experience a mental health problem of some sort each year in the UK, in England. And 1 in 6 people will have a problem like anxiety. So Kevin, is that okay? Okay, yeah, so we're back online now. Yeah, so we're going to get to talk about mental health in a bit. So we're talking about Huldah Crooks. So like I said, she is a lady who lived from 1890, she lived from 1896, I think. 1896, that's when she was born. And she died in 1997. And she's a lady who, at some point in her life, she was overweight. She had a bad diet. Even though she was working very hard in a farm, she was overweight. She was married to, she became a vegetarian, but even then she was still feeling quite low. She was depressed. Have the next slide, sorry. Yeah, so this is Huldah when she was a lot younger. So by the age of 16, she was kind of at 160 pounds on her 5'2" frame. Now, if you remember from last week, that means she was quite obese, really. She became a dietitian, she ate better, she became a vegetarian, but she still was feeling quite low. Her husband died and she sunk into depression. Next slide. So we're talking a bit about what exactly is mental illness. We talked a bit about it. So there are different types of mental illnesses. You have anxiety disorders, like panic disorders. You have mood disorders, like depression. You have eating disorders, personality disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychotic disorders. The ones we're going to go through chat about briefly will be anxiety, depression, and psychosis. But about the stats we talked about earlier, so 1 in 4 people will have a mental health problem of some kind each year in England. 1 in 6 will have it every week. And suicide rates have been up since 1999. And somewhere in the world, in the last 40 seconds, someone just killed themselves. And that's all due to mental illness. And since COVID, the numbers have gone a lot worse. So depression, what is it? It's a mental illness where you feel negative, basically. So you feel negative, you think negative, you act negative, you feel low all the time. And for it to be depression, it must last for at least 2 weeks. It must represent a change from the way you normally behave. So if you're just kind of like a sad person, that doesn't count. And also, more importantly, it must affect you the way you function. So it will have a negative impact on your life. So that's very significant. Obviously, you might want to rule out, occasionally it can be due to medical conditions. You want to rule that out. It's quite common. 1 in 15 adults can get it. It's also more common in women. And it tends to start in someone's mid-20s, late teens to mid-20s. And there is a degree of inheritance with it. And some of the symptoms, let's go to the next slide. So the symptoms basically go from mild to severe. So you can just feel very sad, you don't want to do anything. Either you lose a lot of weight, or you put a lot of weight on, you struggle to sleep, to getting to a point where you feel worthless, as if your life has no meaning, and you have thoughts of suicide. So the next slide. So talk a bit about psychosis, which is the common perception of, well, it's the most dramatic perception of example of mental illness. So basically, the person has lost contact with reality. Their thoughts are disturbed. They don't know what's real, what's not real. They have delusions, so that's false beliefs. And for instance, I think there was this gentleman who thought he was in the prison where I'm working at, who thought he was actually a member of the royal family. He was the son of Prince Charles, and he was the rightful king. He was the son of the Queen's dad, and was the rightful heir to the throne. And you have hallucinations where you see stuff that other people are not seeing, or you hear stuff that other people are not seeing, are not hearing. And at times, those hallucinations can be very distressing. Some of them can ask you to kill yourself or kill other people. And at times, with all of this, they also they can feel depressed, they can feel anxious as well, and they want to withdraw. Typically, the classic example of someone who's got psychosis, they look dirty, some of them wander around in the streets. They just act out of touch with reality. Next slide. So the next one is anxiety, really. We're all used to getting anxious. I mean, all of us will be worried about some stuff at some point. But anxiety is more than just you being worried temporarily. It's when the fear does not go away and it basically gets worse over time. And also when that anxiety, that fear affects your work, your schoolwork, and your relationships. And there are different types of it, like generalized anxiety disorder or panic disorder, etc. So next slide. So yeah, so that's what we were supposed to. We've done an anxiety and depression self-assessment. I'm not sure what you think based on the tests you've done. You can see that the tests are fairly common. The symptoms can be quite common, but like I said, the key thing is when they become quite severe and they're affecting you in the way you function. And like I said previously, if anyone here is quite anxious or depressed, just get in touch with me after or send me a chat on WhatsApp and we can discuss what to do. Especially if if the person is feeling quite low and has thoughts of hurting themselves. So next slide. So we're back to Huldah. We talked a bit about how she was depressed. She lost her husband at the age of Sam at the age of 60. She became depressed and she picked up walking, and she found that made her feel better. It helped her health, it helped her mood as well. And after a while, at the age of 63, she took off and started exercising in earnest. And let's see what happens to Huldah afterwards. At the age of 63, she's climbed Mount Whitney. Now, Mount Whitney, I think it's a mountain that is over 14,000 feet. And so Huldah climbs it 23 times. She also, she goes to 212 miles on the John Muir Trail. She holds several records. She breaks several records for her age group in terms of exercise and walking. So she just becomes very, very fit. And that we're talking about someone at the age of 80. So what does that tell us? That you're not too old to start. So this is how Angela Lewis, who's a famous American congressman, and that's Huldah there. The next slide. Yeah. So Huldah's, basically for her, you need two things: a good diet and exercise. And she ate lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of nuts, and she believed that exercise helped your circulation, help you to be alert. And from her point of view, even if she didn't want to exercise, she told herself to do it. So let's go. So yeah, so she shows that mental, physical, and spiritual health at any age. Some of us give up because we feel, oh, we're too old, we can't do stuff. But no, look at Huldah, for instance. Next slide. So it shows that exercise is a lot more than just what you do with your muscles. It's also about what it does to your brain. It helps you have a balanced mindset. Next slide. Yeah. So just to echo that, motion balances emotion. So if you exercise regularly, you find that your mind will be good. And it doesn't matter, even if you feel that you're disabled, you can still exercise. You need to get maybe a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, a healthcare provider. Next slide. Who can help you design an exercise program that you can do. Things like Tai Chi and yoga. And the key thing to bear in mind is that those things, they're not necessarily spiritual, certainly not in modern day life now. There are ways to teach you how to be flexible, how to teach you how to maintain good balance. And they're quite good for elderly seniors because they stop you actually, reduce your risk of falling. Next slide. Yeah. So we know that there'll be a time when we're all going to be alert and strong. We look forward to that. But till then, no matter how old you are, we need to try and get our bodies moving. Next slide. Yeah, so we look forward to that. I definitely look forward to it. A time when no one will say, I am sick. So in the meantime, what do you do? You move what you can, you do what you can. Well, like we talked about earlier, if you feel you're disabled, or even if you're ill, you can get someone, a physiotherapist, or your doctor to help design a health program for you. Next slide. So exercise, that's why I said initially, with all the previous speakers, Ishmael and Elaine have talked a bit about it. Exercise helps is medicine basically for both mental and physical problems. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. So, okay, so we're thinking about a bit about the mental, what we really gain from exercise. It improves your mood, improves your self-esteem, and also your creativity, and that's for all age groups. So everyone, even children, can exercise up to the elderly. Next slide. Yeah, so this is something called the Move for Mental Health report. It's a very big study that was done. It took every article, every scientific study about physical activity and mental health from the 1st of January 1990 to the 15th of November 2020. Basically, they analyzed every study about physical activity and mental health, and they came to some conclusions. And we'll talk about that in this study. So basically, the key thing they found out was exercise, physical activity have a positive correlation. So exercise is good for your mental health. So that's what they found out overwhelmingly. Next slide. And we also know that exercise helps stress. Exercise helps you burn off some of those stress hormones and improves your thought processes and distresses you. Next slide, Kevin. So talking a bit more about exercise in the brain, how it helps learning, it helps memory. For those of us who are still studying, the guys like Kelly who are thinking of going to uni, so definitely exercise is going to help you, be alert. And when you want to burn that midnight oil, you're really, really key to it. Next slide. All of us, I guess, we're all still studying. Sorry. So it sharpens your focus and helps you to filter out distractions, improves your judgment, initiative, and creativity. Yeah, so this is a bit about the types of exercise. Again, Elaine talked a bit about it. So you have aerobic exercise, which basically just speeds up your heart rate and breathing. You have strength training, where you basically work on your muscles, stretching, which helps you with flexibility. It's especially important after each exercise session. And also as we get older, because as we get older, we lose flexibility in the muscles and tendons. They can shorten, they won't function properly. So to avoid injury and cramps, you really need to have a stretch after each exercise program and have a stretch as a part of your exercise program. Also, balance is very important as we get older, because as we get older, things like your hearing, your vision, and your muscles tend to break down. So balance exercises are probably the one single thing for the elderly that improves their quality of life and also stops them from falling. Next slide. So what's the best form of exercise? Well, best overall walking, in the sense that it is the easiest to do. We're going to discuss other forms of exercise that maybe might give you more bang for your buck, but exercise for walking literally is the easiest. Anyone can walk. So exercise, other varieties: jogging, hiking, cycling, swimming, skiing, etc. We talked about gym, resistance training, golfing, gardening. So basically, even chores, whatever you want to do, just do it. So we're going to talk about exercise intensity. Again, Elaine talked a bit about this, yeah. But we're going to try and be a bit more scientific, or be a bit scientific about it. So exercise intensity is about how you measure how much effort you're putting when you exercise. And your heart is a ready barometer. It basically, if you click on the animation, it basically tells you the way your heart is working, basically gives you an idea about what's the intensity of the exercise that you're doing. And if we can measure how much the heart is working, it gives us an idea how much intensity of exercise that we're doing. And that's important because the benefit of exercise to mental health correlates with the exercise intensity. Next slide. So this is things we can do. Again, Elaine mentioned this, which is why I kind of feel I'm just revising old ground. There are various things you can use to measure exercise intensity. You can use a heart rate monitor. Elaine talked about Fitbit. Of course, I'm not advertising any particular watch. But so you have a smartwatch, heart rate monitor. There's something called exercise intensity scale. And there's something we'll talk about if you don't have any of those, but you still want to just monitor what's the intensity of your exercise, something called the talk test. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Next slide. So getting scientific. So exercise intensity, we start with what's called your maximum heart rate. To estimate that, 220 minus your age. Now, there is a calculator that I sent out to the WhatsApp group. Again, if you want to take a minute to look at it, and you can calculate what your maximum heart rate will be. It's 220 minus your age. And based on that, 40 to 50% of your maximum heart rate is low. So basically that's what you do when you're walking. Yeah, so you're not really exerting yourself. Moderate is 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, and high is 70 to 90% of maximum heart rate. 90 to 95, that's kind of what Usain Bolt to be doing when he's running 100 meters. Yeah, so over 90 to 95%, you're looking at maximum intensity. So next slide. Yeah, so we talked a bit about a talk test. So what do you do when you don't have something that can measure your heart rate and you want to know, well, am I doing, because Elaine mentioned, you need to push yourself. So how do you know how to push yourself in each exercise session? So the talk test basically is, if you can talk or sing without being breathless and when you're exercising, that really means your exercise intensity is low. So you're basically around 40 to 50% of your maximum heart rate. If you can talk, but you can't sing, then you're about 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. And if you can barely say a few words without gasping for breath, then you're really pushing yourself. Then you're about at least 70 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. Now, why is this important? Because we talked about how much exercise should you do and how often. Well, the Move Your Mental Health study found out, first of all, that any form of physical exercise activity helps your mental health. But if you want to be optimal, you want to exercise 3 to 5 times per week, and you want to do it for at least 30 to 45 minutes of moderate to vigorous or high intensity exercise. So in other words, you want to be between 50 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. 3 to 5 times per week, at least 30 to 45 minutes. And it also tells us that exercising more, so at least 3 to 5 times a week, is better for your mood, for depression, than if you just exercise once per week. And you get the same benefit if, let's say, in a day, you do 3 10-minute sessions as if you do 1 30-minute session. And in some cases of depression, exercise is just as effective as antidepressant or psychotherapy. Now, the interesting thing about the study was they found out that more is not always better. So you might think, well, I'm just going to exercise 7 days a week, 1 hour every day. But unfortunately, you don't actually get a lot of benefit with your mental health. It's a U-shaped curve. So people who exercise 3 to 5 times per week basically have better mental health than people who exercise more than 5 times per week, or those who exercise less than 3 to 5 times per week. And the theory is that by the time you're exercising more than 5 times a week, maybe you've got a bit of anxiety, a bit of an obsessive component to it, which is obviously not healthy. And also, obviously, you're going to be having, unless you're super athlete, you're going to be having problems with your joints and tendons and things like that. The next slide. So yeah, what type of exercise is beneficial? High intensity exercise is better than low intensity exercise. So again, that's where we come to, yeah, walking is good, but if you want to get bang for your buck in terms of your mood, you want to have some sort of high intensity exercise on a weekly basis. And combining strength training with aerobics or cardiovascular training is better than if you just go to the gym and maybe just run on a treadmill, or if you just go to the gym and you lift weights alone. So the Move Your Mental Health study found out that ideally you want to combine both to get the best bang for your buck for your mental health. And mindfulness training, like we talked about all those balance exercises like yoga and Tai Chi, even though they're low intensity, you actually get better, they improve your mental health better than walking. And in terms of, on average, if you want to rank exercises in terms of benefits for your mental health, team sports are things like playing football, basketball, or things like cycling, going to the gym, aerobic exercises, again, give you the best bang for your buck, really, in terms of your mental health. Next slide. So just a bit of a summary. So cardiovascular aerobic exercises are very good for depression. Again, cardiovascular aerobic exercise is very good for people with anxiety. Things like Tai Chi, those balance exercises are very good for symptoms of anxiety and depression. And even if you've got psychosis, exercise will help your mental health, especially the bit about them being withdrawn, feeling numb, and not engaging. Next slide. So yeah, so that's just a summary. So God has given us exercise to help us avoid needless suffering and anxiety and disease brought on by inactivity. Now, I wanted to ask a question just before we wrap this up. Does anyone notice any similarities between what we talked about exercise in this session and the exercise in our last session about weight, losing weight? Notice anything similar? Well, the frequency and the amount of minutes are essentially identical. So you want to lose weight, you want to exercise 3 to 5 times per week, 30 to 45 minutes, and it's essentially the same as well if you want to improve your mental health. Right? So Proverbs talks about, blessed are those who keep my ways, for by me your days will be multiplied and years of life will be added to you. So thanks for listening to the presentation. And any questions, like I said, it's interactive, any comments? I know we kind of whizzed through it, but any comments or?
Thank you for this. It's very informative.
Thank you, Dr. Ochi.
Thanks a lot, Pastor. Thanks a lot, Cesar, for that. Any comments from the exercise gurus in the house? Okay, so.
All right, I think everyone is just taking in. There was a lot of information today. It was like a bombardment of information.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Well, I think it was me who was too long on mine. But the key is on the application of the information, isn't it?
Mm.
And the good news is that, as Dr. Uche said, any amount of physical activity to exercise is helpful. So even if you just do 1 day, go for it, and then increase to 3 to 5 days, and have that balance. Same as in diet, we know variety. Also in our physical activity, we want some variety. Okay, we've reached the end of our session. We will continue next week with more information and more monitoring of our physical activity. Let's see if we can increase from last week. And yes, let's keep advancing in health, physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual. And let's pray for finishing our session. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord God, for